God. Okay, did everybody get their seats? All right, everybody. Appreciate we have a lot of work to get through with the timers right at the center. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. We'll start the meeting with roll call.
Toledo Oaks. Alta Mesa.
Here.
Casanova Oklahoma.
Here.
Deer Flats.
Here.
Del Monte Beach. Here. Del Monte Grove Laguna Grande. Here. Downtown.
Here.
Fish Flats.
Here.
Glenwood. Monterey Vista. Here. New Monterey. Here. Oak Grove. Here. Old Town. Here. Skyline Forest.
Hello.
Villa Del Monte.
Here.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of past minutes of March 28th and April 4th meetings. Sharon.
I would like to request that this be continued to our June meeting. I don't know about the rest of you. I didn't get a chance to read over that. This is a busy time. So I'd like to make a motion that we continue it to June.
Second. Discussion? Yeah, Charlie seconded.
On discussion,
Yeah.
as a matter for the record, I missed the March 28th meeting. However, I did watch the complete presentation on the Brown Act, Conflicts of Interest, Public Records Act, and bullying prevention, and it was presented to the Planning Commission. I'll let the record indicate that I saw the whole bloody thing.
Any other comments on the
Yeah,
minutes?
but it was a lively presentation.
Sorry I missed it, guys.
Anybody in the audience have a question or comment? Comments on the minutes? A vote? Is there a vote? All those in favor, move it to a June meeting? All right. Yeah, it is.
To haul out another one of the chairs.
So at this point, you need some more chairs?
Yeah, another stack.
Make it past the tripod?
Maybe not. Yeah, we can.
With that, we'll get to the section of the meeting on comments on anything not on the agenda. Like I say, I'll keep everybody to 3 minutes max on their comments. This is the time for public comments on something not on the agenda. You come up to the podium. We appreciate if you state your name.
Yes, my name is Shirley Stewart. I'm out of town next week when it's begun citywide. This is a citywide project. It's for, to install 5 gateways that reflect Monterey's character. They have a visual connection to Fisherman's Wharf and significant roadway entrances to downtown Old Monterey. And I have a handout. I don't have. Yeah. So that shows the application and a couple of possibilities. It's about throwing the widest possible net to make people aware of the historic district. To make people aware of the historic district, and this is like casting the widest net possible. People coming into Monterey, to give them an indication that there are things to look at here. and making it a wide net so that it, whether they're coming in, it would be from two ends of Pacific Street, from coming in on Del Monte near Washington, somewhere along Pearl Street or 3rd Street. The idea being that the most desirable thing is, if possible, to separate commuter and business traffic from historic district traffic. So if they came in, for instance, and got off at Aguajito, they would be directed to come down along the lake and come over the lake and come up into town on Pearl Street. It shows several pictures. Oh, I don't have anything for the audience. Well, but I do have something.
You have about 15 seconds, Sean.
Oh, okay.
But I've told everybody the time constraint because we have to get out here on.
So there are a couple of ideas. It's an idea of having a monument at these 5 locations to establish a historic district. I guess that's it.
You have about 5 seconds.
Well,
Thank you,
short,
Sharon.
you said it was short.
So we'll be talking about this at the May 2nd meeting in Children's.
Yes.
Okay.
The last thing I want to say is that it seems like it would be a good thing if cultural arts was the expediter of this project, because it is about cultural Monterey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the, I should let everybody know we are recording this meeting. When you're picked up by the microphone, we'll be loading this up on AMP. So it's not a live one like we do at the council chambers, but it will be loaded up on AMP for anybody to review. Anybody else have a public comment not on the agenda today? Okay, with that we'll get to purpose of this follow-up meeting. So basically we received proposals, we have 2 public hearings. First public hearing, really kind of define what the scope is, let everybody know what the project taken from the proponent will be right up. This is the second meeting where we actually, now that everybody knows what the scope is roughly, it's changed slightly. Hear the public comment and public comments on the projects. So what you'll see me through, I'll go through to about 4 projects at a time. I'll list them real quick, and then I'll open up for discussion here at the panel first, then open up for public comment on the projects. And there's general rules we go through, and we'll give everybody, but I will have to limit everybody to 3 minutes because we have time constraints here at the center. They close by 8:30. NIP spokesman reports.
I don't have any, Shane, you want to report back from Parks and Rec?
Yes, I did send out a summary spreadsheet of the comments that Parks and Rec shared with us last week. So I know Ellen's here from Parks and Rec, and as we go through, she'll be commenting, but I tried to capture the essence of what was said at that meeting.
Those are helpful.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, with that, we'll go straight into item 5. We'll start discussion. So tonight, we're looking at Aguajito Oaks through Monte Vista. Fish Flats is moved to 5-2. 5-2. So the first one's AM1, is a crosswalk at the Mesa Road in Fremont.
Jeff, how are we handling conflicts of interest for this?
Yeah, that's right. I didn't get clarification anymore, so I can just have you just step out.
Do this one, and then let me come back.
So I'll do this one, then we'll come back. We have conflict of interest, if someone's within 500 feet or 1,000, they can't be within sight of this. So I'll do AM1 first. This is Mesa Road at Fremont Crosswalk. Put a crosswalk there by the flower shop. Any comments or discussion?
So is this the same scope of the project that we had a year ago?
Yeah, the downside scope one.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody in the public want to comment on AM1?
Were you going to do
All right.
4? Were you going to do 4 and then ask them?
No, Rick can come in. This is the only one he has a
All right,
conflict
thank
on.
you.
Yeah, fire. Now I'll do the next 3. Thanks, Rick.
Yep.
So AM3 is the Alta Mesa Greenbelt fuel reduction. AM4 is the Don Davy Creek path. At the Parks and Rec, we broke it up into 4 segments. The first preference was the trailhead up there at Don Davy. And the second preference, segment 4, the area to get out of because we have a wetlands area. So if I add those 2 together, it'd be about a 195K project. AM5 is ultimatum around RFP. Request was to put a flashing light. City does not put a continuous flashing light. All our pedestrian flashing lights are actuated by pedestrians. So we couldn't fulfill the request just to put a continuous flashing light, so the cost stayed the same, put in our regular RFFEs, protect flashing lights and with the curb ramps. With that, I open up discussion for AM 3 through 5.
Yeah, the greenbelt maintenance is self-funded, I mean, it's ongoing. The flashing beacon, we're not prepared to support it at $125,000 and having to put in ADA access to take a wheelchair to leave them in the grass and not be able to go anywhere. So that doesn't have our, basically our support. We are in agreement with the 2 sections to start with. We want to have it as sections 1 and 4 of the trail, which is Alta Mesa 3, or no, excuse me, 4. They're the 2, I wouldn't necessarily the most critical. Section 4 it's the area where it's actually, you're going to need to go over water there. It's become, over time, a wetland area, and we want to be able to do it before it gets certified as a wetland. And the trailhead is pretty much we're being forced to do because of ADA access, so if we want to do anything. So those 2 would be the first sections. They also make the trail much more usable. It still will need the other work to do the ultimate intent, but it will make it, you easily be able to walk through it now, whereas right now you have to skirt around a mini lake.
Thank you. Marilyn?
At one point, we asked to have the green belt, a diagram of the green belt that was requested and what had been done so far.
Yeah, right, I don't have that information for you.
Okay, so that's all right.
Yes, I'll try to get it before voting night. Try to get that.
Is that something that we would be preparing?
Yes, I don't know where they
We're
work.
way backed up right now, but I'll get it before voting night. Yeah.
If we can see it May 2nd, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll try.
I mean, otherwise, we're at voting night and it's hard for us to absorb and process.
Thanks, Lou.
Any other comments? How about out in the public? Does anybody have any comments on AM 3, AM 4, AM 5? Please come up.
Hi, I'm Ellen McEwen. Thank you. NIP, I'm a Parks and Rec Commissioner, and I want to be respectful of your time, so I'm just going to say that we are in favor of all the greenbelt fuel reduction measures that are coming forward, so I won't speak on behalf of those again. And we are in agreement, as Jeff described, on the 2 portions of the Dobby Creek path for the same reasons described. So I think that summarizes it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment on these 3 projects? All right, thank you. So Kona 1 is the Kona tree study, with the tree losses and recommendations for tree replacement, trying to find out the disease. Kona 2 is the park improvements. This has been combined with COK 3 for the fence. So it took both the shade umbrella area, picnic table, and the bench. It also replaces the galvanized chain link fence. So the price, and added those 2 together, was $38,000, and what the fence was. So it's a $77,000 project if we combine COK 2 and 3. COK 4 is the Fairground Road, Airport Road lighting. Installs 8 lights on the existing wood poles along the perimeter of Fairground Road on the fence line. Any comments or questions on Richard?
On the tree study, I have a blown up photograph here, 1945. It shows every native tree that was in my neighborhood before the houses were built. So that's what we're starting. I'm working with Robert on this. We're going to do 90% of the work. We want a forest pathologist to come down for 1 day, take samples, look at what we want to point out, what type of disease this is, and then send those samples to the laboratory to tell us, can we do anything? If we can't do anything. But I can tell you that a Berkeley pathologist is identified the strain that's here, and it's very lethal. And but he does have some solutions. So I don't know why we had to discover this on our own, but the report was made in 2005. So that's the tree study, and if the other neighborhoods want a couple trees sampled, you're gonna have to help us out on this cost, because we're carrying the load for the whole city. The park improvements are just things we're tweaking on the barbecue area, a bench for the preschool parents that sit and wait for their children, and then the fence, which after I get through, Robert will detail which neighbors are signed up for this. And so Fairgrounds Road, you were gonna find out if we can do it or not.
We have an easement for a roadway, but they're still in talks with the fairgrounds on who's gonna be controlling the pavement and street and stuff.
Yeah, this is open to ball of wax, and who owns Fairgrounds Road?
No, they own it. The fairgrounds owns half of it.
They own half of it to the center line.
Which half?
Their side.
Their side to the center line. So hopefully we'll work that out by the next meeting to whether we can do this or not. It opens a whole new ball of wax on who's who and who fixes what. So any questions on the Kona project?
Where's the source of the lighting power?
On the existing poles. There's a light on every other pole now on Fairgrounds Road. It would just come off the poles that service drop from existing poles.
These are giant poles for high voltage, and they're separated by bigger distances than regular poles. And so we'll figure out if we can vote for it or not. That's it.
So
Gene,
you're asking for help if it's out of the base allocation?
Right.
Okay,
I'd like to do that.
Or we
Yeah.
can go to the whole vote and
Yeah.
support you.
Yeah, it's just that this is very important.
Yeah.
Nobody's done this. We're doing 90% of the work. We just need to get those lab tests, but we pretty much got a name for it. And a separate variant that came from China. Yeah.
any other comments? I'll open this to the public for COK 1, 2, and 3, and 4.
Good.
Please come up to the podium and state your name.
Robert Yoma, at your first meeting, I submitted a signature in support of changing events in front of the park. And I was able to, well, we got 2 of the missing 3 people, and there's 1 household that they didn't answer their door.
Can you speak up a little louder because I can pick you up on our...
Okay. I only made 5 copies of this, so. it's
That's
just-
okay, we can distribute it.
It's an updated signature list of the people that face Casanova Oakdale Park and about 3 or 4 houses on the other side. And they would all like to see the chain link fence replaced. It's become an eyesore in the neighborhood. It's the last chain link fence. The condominium that went in next door when they upgraded to apartments, they had originally put a chain link fence in. The architectural review committee voted 6-0 against the cyclone chain link fence and wanted them to put in another picket, which they have done. And they actually tried to argue not having to put in a metal picket because there was no kind of cyclone fence at the park. And at the hearing where they eventually had to change, I said, well, when the time comes, I will see if we can change the cyclone fence to one just like in the condos. And that's what was in the description. We would like to replace about 300 feet of 30-year-old fencing that's become a street eyesore. The kids get off the bus, they see a chain link fence, they throw their garbage there, not in front of the nice metal picket fence. It's just past its prime. And just one comment on the tree study. Richard has found a professor in California that's the most expert one on this, and he's at UC Berkeley. And he actually is a colleague of a friend of mine who teaches there in the Computer Mapping Environmental Center. So I think we could probably pull this off at minimal cost, and we might be the spark plug for a major effort for the whole peninsula. This will attack all the oaks eventually. It doesn't stop, but they have a spray that they think might work if we can identify what virus it is. And so if you have oak trees, if we don't do something now.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience?
I'm Ellen McEwen, Parks and Rec again. Parks and Rec has evaluated these and they are in compliance with the master plan, and we support COK 1 and 2. COK 4 is not under our purview. Thanks.
Anybody else have a comment? Thank you.
Jeff, one more question.
Yes, bring it back.
For the park improvements, COK 2, I had written down on one of our earlier meetings that there were going to be, I believe, 2 additional benches instead of the one.
Right, I cut the price down to reduce the cost, so just have 1 additional bench in the playground and 1 bench next to the preschool. Originally, we had 3 on the estimate. And then I redid the structure to find more of a, instead of a custom-built structure, I found one online. So I cut the cost down. And then what we did was we combined it with COK 3
Yes.
with the fencing job. So the total $77 for the total thing.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I thought it was too high, we had to cut it back.
All right, we'll move on. Deer Forest 1 Elk Run retaining wall. This has been changed now to just a retaining wall. We're not recommending to redo the all the utility vaults and put them on the ground. This was on a van tour today for those that went, and it would open up the sight view from the intersection looking down. Any comments on Deer Forest 1? Anybody in the public like to talk about Deer Forest 1? Thank you.
Deer
This is the way to roll.
Jeff?
What's
That's
that?
Deer Flat.
Deer Flats, yeah, Deer Flats 1.
And on van tour today, we were out there by cutting the embankment back and retaining it, then we were able to, I mean, the driver coming from a side street will have a better line of view, and then we don't have to move.
All right. Del Monte Beach 1, this is Spray Avenue tot lot resurfacing the over the rubber mat like an artificial turf. Del Monte 2 is the Spray Avenue dog weight station. At the Park and Recs Commission, they recommend why not include all these potential dog stations in the CW5, which is going to look at all the parks and where to place them, at least 25 parks. And Del Monte Beach 3 is the Spray Avenue tot lot resurface exercise equipment. At the Parks and Rec meeting, and you can correct me, they did not recommend having the adult exercise equipment in the playground area where they see a lot of young children use. And Del Monte Beach 4 is the Beach Tide Avenue security camera to record license plates as they enter or leave the beach track. Any questions on these 4 projects? I do know when I both opened up to a public comment, we actually had some people came early, had to leave, so we've got some written comments. So I'll open up to public comment.
Well,
James?
What do you want to talk about first, Jamie?
If you want me to talk about it first, because we do have the neighborhood priorities.
Okay. Why don't you talk about first and open up?
All right. So the votes are in, the survey results are here. There are, the Del Monte Beach number 2 has been pulled by the submitter. So we just want to get that taken care of along with the citywide approach to those dog stations.
Could we just say it's transferred into citywide 5?
Okay. Yeah, either way, they were,
If
I
it's
told
pulled,
them.
then it acts like it isn't, and Parks and Rec is suggesting those that had been requested, they try to do first.
Oh,
So
okay,
we
then
want-
it's been transferred into citywide 5.
Yeah.
So, very good. So what we end up with then is we end up with 1 and 3, which are the tot lot with and without equipment, a security camera, a retaining wall, signs, traffic calming, and a play area on the dunes.
You want to wait till I talk about the other 5? 4?
Yeah.
Then you can bring it to your own prioritization.
Okay.
Or you want, what's your priority for these first 4?
It's easier to look at it all together.
Okay. I'll open up public comment then.
okay, I have a question.
Richard.
I had a question about license plate readers. We were going to get an answer on what the city policy is on it. This will be the first one.
And so this is not a camera for license plate, so maybe we should get into some of this. So the camera that's being requested and that's been priced out here is simply to record activity, and it writes over itself if it's not pulled down. It does not do any data analysis, it does not feed into a database. So it's there for addressing issues that have arisen. It's not tracking folks. Right now, the neighborhood has these cameras in individual homes, and the police officers are coming into the neighborhood to read those individual cameras. This would be a station posted so people know about it, external, but no reading. And the reason I mention that is because I think the city police are looking at a camera system for the city that will read license plates. This would not be that expensive or probably tied into that
Does
at all.
this record it all?
It records about 3 days worth of coming and going.
Where does the recording go?
It stays at
It
the
stays,
camera.
stays at the camera. City policy, we record like our parking garages, but just, we don't keep it, just rolls over.
So if you need to go look, you gotta go within X days. of
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and generally what we're seeing in the neighborhood is that when there's been a crash or a shooting,
Yeah, I got it.
they're right out there. So when it comes to the camera, that's what's being proposed, which is why it's so cheap.
So what is the difference between 1 and 3?
And so that's really, and that gets back to, again, to, there's another one on here that's a play area, number 7.
I'm confused.
So 3 and 1 are the same, except for one thing. So last year, this was approved as a cutoff project, but there were some big things ahead of it and it didn't get funded, so it's back. The surface really needs to be redone, and that's what 1 is. But there's been a lot of discussion in the neighborhood about how to engage older kids, parents that are hanging out in the park with their toddlers, how to engage them. And this is the only space we have that isn't beach and boardwalk and sand. And so the neighborhood has come back and asked for, while you're in there redoing the surface, can you put in one of these kinetic exercise machines that they're putting in at all the schools? They're big. They wouldn't be something that a toddler would be able to get on and hurt themselves on, but they would be maximizing the square feet of space in there so that the parent has something to do while they're there with their toddler. I know the parks is saying, well, it's a toddler lot, but our neighborhood is saying it's our only lot.
My confusion is, you got resurfacing on both of them. Which one do we vote for, Jamie? That's what
So the neighborhood is saying, the neighborhood's priority is for DMB 3 more than DMB 1, but when we look at the whole scope of the things, they really want the camera. That camera is their number 1 priority.
So you're confusing me more. So.
They want the camera, well, we haven't gone through the whole priority.
No, between the two, they want the,
Between the two, they want
both
3.
with the equipment.
They want the equipment.
That's their priority.
While
So
they're
they
in
don't
there.
wanna drop 1, they wanna get 1 and 3 if they can.
No, they just want 3.
They just want 3.
If you can't get 3, they'll
Okay,
take 1.
That's.
There you go. If they really want 3, if they can't get 3, they'll take 1, because it really needs to be done, it's falling apart. So their priority would be 3.
So 3 is, for the 88, you get both the resurfacing
And the equipment. What you do is you get 2 little stations, and each of the stations have 4 little workstations around it. So you're getting a lot of activity in a small space with DMB 3. So their priority is DMB 3 over 1, and DMB 4 is the number 1 for the neighborhood. How's that?
Thank you, that's perfect. With that, open up public comment.
Ellen McEwen, Parks and Rec. Our consideration on DMB 3 was for safety. Having line of sight is really important with kids, and if you get a lot of adult-type exercise equipment there, it's really hard to keep an eye on your toddlers. And this has always been a park for young children, and so we didn't feel that the adult equipment was consistent with safety and master plan. So that's why we weren't supporting it, but we're very much in support of DMB 1. And we have no opinion on the camera. So thank you.
Please step up if you have a question or a comment. Thank you. State your name, please.
Good evening, my name is Paul Charcoon from Monte Beach. We'll talk about the security cameras. A little background, I'm a sergeant for a local agency. So the cameras that Jimmy mentioned about officers coming to the house is one of my houses. And it has helped a lot of curtailing activities from that area during the nighttime. And everybody knows about the history of Monte Beach. They've had 2 shootings over a couple of years. So it has been, from my insight in my profession, it has become a hotbed for a lot of people outside of the city. So Seaside, Salinas, Maria, students at CUSB know they can come there because there's less patrolling because it's at nighttime. even though this PD is enforcing the parking, no parking at nighttime, that's giving a ticket to a car. It's not talking to a person that's down on the beach or walking the neighborhood. And they move from the beach parking to the neighborhood parking in front of people's homes, smoking, everything else. So, like anything else, like a neighborhood watch program, what we would do is explain if you turn on your lights at nighttime, you have, make it more available, meaning that people are looking at it, they think you're home, it's less likely to entice somebody to come to your neighborhood. Having you turn on your lights at night on your porch. People don't like, criminals do not like when it's nice and bright, where they can be seen and identified. They like it when it's dark, and unfortunately Del Monte Beach is that at nighttime. And people go on vacation, we know it's a lot of homes, people have a second home, so we have a lot of, we don't have regular people coming and staying there, so I may see a new car, I'm wondering, is that my neighbor's new car or not? So it's hard for us to gauge it, so but having a standalone system that self-records on itself and only is accessible by somebody with a key that has permission to get to it, to pull some type of footage for that sort of time frame, helps out the department to find out and solve crimes, instead of just waiting until it happens and try to catch up afterwards. And so that's why I'm here to speak about it, because I know it works, because I have it on my own house, just because of that reason. And that's, if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them, if anybody has anything.
Thank you.
Other departments in other cities are already using cameras.
Yes, I brought this up to our neighborhood association because there's a city of King City in South Monterey County has instituted a camera wide for their city because they had a high homicide rate. And unfortunately, that's the sad part about it. But since the installation of the citywide camera system, it has dropped to 100% the last 2 years.
Okay, have you wrap it up in about?
Yeah, and then so what that is incorporating their camera systems, and also Greenfield is also. So you have these three small cities that do not have a large tourist foundation or anything, taking the steps to protect their citizens. So.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else in the audience want to comment on this? Oh, Steve, put open up. And Jamie has written comments. You're going to have to read that one.
So a couple of folks came before the meeting started and had to leave. So they wrote their comments out, and one of them was Marianne Deering, the president of the Neighborhood Association. And she had 3 points, 2 of them are relevant to this set. My comments concerning the projects proposed for Del Monte Beach neighborhood. Camera. We need security for the neighborhood. The camera option was discussed at our January general meeting and is supported by the neighborhood. It's an inexpensive tool that we believe is needed. Tot lot with 2 pieces of equipment. The addition of the 2 pieces of equipment is for use by the parents as they're there with their children playing. Parents support this as useful for the neighborhood. Those are the 2 public comments.
All right, thank you. With that, I'll bring it back to the board. Sharon.
I want to pick up on what Richard was saying. I'm concerned that we need to hear what the city's policy is on this. Civil liberties are in play, and that is not where, we do not make such decisions.
You asked me last, I'll get you the city's policy on cameras. I just haven't got to you yet when you asked me last time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't possibly support this unless I know that the city actually is in support of reporting this type of thing. Because we're not aware of a lot of cameras here in town.
And they haven't done it before.
No, not to our knowledge, so.
We have cameras in our parking garages.
Parking garages is not city streets.
Okay.
So what's happening on city streets, I mean, it's fine for other communities to say this is going to be our policy. But until we at NIP know that the city council has indeed set such a policy, I don't think we have any business touching this one.
And I would say that the city's in the process of looking at cameras out in the streets right now. And I would say that this committee has put forward its own ideas when it felt that they were good ideas as a way to lead the city. And I would say the neighborhood wants this very badly, and if the difference between it taking it and not taking it is putting it on the parking lot at the end instead of on the street in the middle, that would be perfectly acceptable as well, because that camera is going to be effective and helpful wherever it goes.
But Jamie, the difficulty is, it may be right for your neighborhood, but once we begin there, I don't know that it's right for mine, I don't know that it's right for another one, and that is going to be, I assume, it's going to be the path. And, I don't want to follow that path.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get back to you on the policy.
And the city would have to defend a lawsuit over it. I mean, it is not ours. I mean, we would not be bearing the responsibility for
Well, and
this.
that's why we'll bring back the police position on this.
Well,
The
we
city
need a
is
policy.
evolving.
Yeah, but police
So-
isn't exactly.
Yeah, police is not the same.
This
Okay,
is
no,
citizens and
I'll bring
police.
back to what city policy has on cameras.
Thank you.
Get that to you.
The only
Any other
comment-
comments up there? Rick?
Yeah, the only comment, you all will probably be surprised how many cameras you already have in your neighborhood that are already recording the street and all the rest, but they happen to be on private property. But I know probably 12 in my neighborhood alone.
That's fine.
What
Gene,
if I don't know any?
Gene, you have a comment?
That's it, how do you do it?
And I certainly would defer to your neighborhood's opinion, but when I go around with my granddaughter, who's 5, I really love it when there's a sign that says, "No adults who are unattended by a tot." So when you put an adult piece of equipment in there, it's an invitation to unattended adults, let's call them, to be there, and I am concerned about that. I would support it if you have a policy where adults without children are not welcome. And I think that's at Dennis the Menace? That adults can't, I thought I saw it somewhere, but it's definitely down in LA when I go and take my daughter around. You cannot be in some of these small parks for tots if you do not have a tot with you.
Okay.
Interesting point on the tot lot. The equipment that's in there now actually says must be 5 years or older. So just be aware that it's actually kind of not quite on. I don't, of course, even just noticed that. There are very few tots in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is extremely impacted. The amount of public space, the amount of parking space it has is all public space, and by the way, Google's got it being a regional park. So this lot is the only place in the neighborhood where those people can go. And given how many tots there are in this neighborhood, to exclude the rest of the neighborhood would be very hard indeed. And so that's why we're looking at equipment that is not, it's just thin bars and that sort of stuff. It's not big things, it doesn't have blockage to it. But it would allow more of the neighborhood to use it. It's the only space that they've got, and there aren't going to be any other spaces added. So that's why, I respect what you are saying about the tot lots, but it is something that they have considered when they talked about this, and it's got a lot of discussions.
Okay, and Dennis first, and Sharon.
What kind of camera is it that it's $13,000? I put a $100 Amcrest camera on my house and I watch everything.
I just
And
used
it's got an SD card in it and it records over itself every 3 days, so I'm like,
We'll check the estimate. I used the estimate when we were getting cameras at the Sierra Monument. They're a little bit higher on that.
Yeah, they're a whole lot less.
We'll check it. Sharon?
Okay. Parks and Rec was saying they felt that introduction of exercise equipment for older people, whether teenagers or parents, was going to change the character of the small park. And changing the character was a safety concern. They felt that it was a small enough area, and maybe your neighborhood could start looking for another house to demo and create.
And Sharon, you're absolutely right. We actually get around the neighborhood. The price of a pair of undeveloped dirt in that neighborhood is outrageous. Outrageous. I'm throwing the number out and you just don't want to know.
We'll support you, Jamie.
Like we can say, the entire buying plan, the acquisition fund we have now will not get one piece of sand. And so, and to be brutally honest, that equipment is now beyond its old life. And we may be then looking at going into the parks and saying, rip it out and change the park. But the neighborhood does not feel that needs to happen. It thinks it can share the space. But right now, We almost put in for new equipment for the whole thing. We feel like we can keep that equipment going. But we felt that this was a one piece maybe instead of two to make it not so concentrated. But my kids have nothing to do. The equipment is 5 to 8.
We know we got 40 projects to go through tonight. Tonight's more of the public comment coming through. We let this one go on, but if we do this on the rest, we won't finish tonight. But then we need to get more information back, but I think we need to move this on. Delmonte Beach 5 is a retaining wall repair of retaining wall by a curb ramp, seafoam and surfway. Delmonte Beach 6 is rec trail signage, installation of new additional signage down by the rec trail crossing in Casa Verde where the bike lanes go through, just to reaffirm who owns the right of way, which is the vehicles. Delmonte Beach 7 is beachway, surfway, traffic calming. This price has been reduced. I have a current beach circulation existing project account with $77K in it. The total project cost is $103,000. So this will identify 2 areas in the circulation plan at 2 intersections. So we need, the price now is $26,000. Delmonte Beach H is the dune play area. This is wanting to convert sections of the restored dunes into an area. We show a volleyball court, not a whole lot of much more room than the size of the volleyball court. PRC, at their PRC meeting, they didn't recommend projects located in restored dune areas. With that, I'll open up for discussion.
Okay, so neighborhood priority. Number 5, the retaining wall repair was 6th priority. The signs was 2nd priority. The traffic calming was 5th priority. And the dune play area was dead last by a long run. And so to give you an example, the camera got a total of 816 points out of 900 possible points. The dune play area got 68 points out of a total of 900 points. So, and the comments that I got pages of comments back from folks. I got lots of emails, and we have some public comment to go through it as well. But the comments were that the tot lot is the place for us to engage in active non-beach areas as a neighborhood. And that's what I've got in my notes. We'll see. That's it.
Anybody else have a question?
What was the priority again for you? Camera?
Camera's number 1. And so, what was
1, 2, 3,
number
4.
3?
The spray lot with the equipment would be number 3 then, right?
So the spray lot with equipment is number 3, or with or without equipment, equipment's preferred. So number 2 was signs, number 1 was camera, number 3 is tot lot. And we can get into the naturalist is concerned about the dune play area, and there may be even deed restrictions on how that dune is developed. We don't have that data.
You have 4.
Yeah.
What was number 4?
The tot lot with and without equipment. Equipment is 3, without equipment is 4.
Anybody in the public want to comment on DMB 5, 6, 7, and 8? And I have a couple written comments, okay?
Okay. So the neighborhood, President Marianne Deering has written, park, overwhelming neighbors have expressed concerns about the park play area on the dunes. We do not want the dunes disturbed and believe the beach provides an adequate play area for folks coming to the beach and older children. Dale Hogan, who lives, I live with my Tracy at 140 Tide. I'm strongly opposed to the proposed basketball area, play area, park on the dunes at the corner of Surf and Tide. The beach is a natural park and a natural asset to Monterey. The beach's parking situation is not good, especially if the sun is shining. Please take this non-natural proposal off the NIP list of projects. There are many other options and places for parks. We also have a number of emails. Build a castle on the sand, dig a hole in the sand, come your friend with sand, do not bounce basketballs in the sand. And we're concerned, we already have traffic problems and blocked streets, and this would create even more congestion. And then we vote against this park naturally. Parking, save the dunes. We fought long and hard to save these dunes from being developed, as we all know, and we would like to see those dunes maintained and not a playground.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
I close the public comment, bring it back, any comments before we move on? Thank you. Delmonte Grove 1, traffic calming has been removed. We had no support from the property owner. Delmonte Grove 3 is Laguna Grande Park playground boulders. I reduced the cost down to $207,000. At the Parks and Rec Commission, they had a lot of concerns about liability. And is this the right park for these big boulders? We were not in our recommendation for the structure at this park. Delmonte Grove 5, Laguna Grande Park volleyball court and turf replacement. This project, I just went to council last Tuesday. They approved our CDBG funding plan, which is going to go to HUD. So at that time, we have budgeted $84,000 of CDBG funding. No guarantee until HUD approves it in June. So the request is to go 50-50 in cost. So the request now has been reduced to $84,000 of NIP money pending the approval of HUD for the CDBG plan to do the volleyball court, and also includes a couple of ADA improvements. Delmonte Grove 6 is the Laguna Grande Park play equipment, replace play equipment. With that, open up discussion for these 4 projects.
Merrily has conflict of interest on which of the projects? I don't think.
I didn't
all
bring
of
my
them.
sheet for confidential. I forgot to bring it
It's all
today.
of them. She thinks it's all of them.
I think she's pretty close to all of them.
I just want to make sure.
So with that,
Um,
Kathleen?
As I understand it, the submitter for the boulders has been advised of Parks and Rec's status and is considering a study. I don't know if they've contacted you or not.
Now, I haven't read my emails for a day or two, getting ready for stuff. I'll take a look. Okay,
So
go for study.
that may change considerably.
Okay, I'll reach out to them.
Yeah. And I think that's the only one to comment on.
Okay.
Alan may want to add in, but my recollection of what Parks and Rec had to say about it was they did not believe that, one, that this was the right location, it should not be in this park. And 2, they didn't believe that there needed to be any funding now, that they individually, I mean, they as a commission would be looking for another place. It requires some security. They need to be able to lock it off. It needs to be supervised during the times of use. And it isn't something the city is prepared to just walk into right now. They want to do further study into it, but they didn't feel that they needed funding to do that, that they would work on it separately.
Okay. Any other comments on the board? Open this out for the public. First up is Ellen.
Hi, hello, Parks and Rec here. And, let's see, the boulders we felt were unsafe, and Sharon summarized it very nicely. We would like to look into some kind of climbing wall situation that would be secure and not a potential huge liability for the city. It is something that we had listed on the master plan that we wanted to move forward with, but we don't think that this is the way to do it and not appropriate for that park. The Laguna Grande turf replacement, DMG 5 is a priority for us. It's something we support that's consistent with the master plan, and we had it as one of our priority items. And we also support the playground equipment replacement, the DMG 6, consistent with the master plan, and we think it's a fabulous idea. So, thank you.
Thank you.
No question.
Jamie?
Does Parks have a place where they want to suggest the boulder? Because I think the submitter would like the boulder more than they want the boulder in that park.
They haven't looked into it yet.
We have not looked into it. Yeah.
Anybody else in the public have a comment? Thank you. I'll bring it back. Any more discussion on these 4 projects?
Just that there was a lot of support for the boulder in general, and I do believe the submitter's very flexible on it, and we'd like to see it happen somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to make clear, they're proposing boulders, not climbing wall. They're very different.
It's a climbing
The
boulder.
park's looking at it, it's, yeah. Think of it from the boulder standpoint. You got a mini climbing wall at Dennis Mesh Park already.
All right, you want to bring Marilee back in?
So Jeff, can we please go through DT 3, 4, and 10, and I'll leave you
Which ones?
downtown 3, 4, and 10.
Those ones you can see, right? Or those
I
ones you
cannot
have-
see those.
3, okay, this is,
So I can't see DT 3, 4, and 10.
all right, so, all right, I'll go through the other ones in the plan.
Tell us here.
Okay? You want to come sit up at the table? Or you can stay back there if you like. Okay, so we're going to talk about downtown 2, Monterey Beach. I didn't change the title of this, showers.
He had you do 3, 4, and 10 first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the
Oh,
ones.
to do 3, 4.
Yeah, because those are his
Got it.
conflict on, that's why he left.
Thank you for correcting, that's good to have. So, downtown 3 is the Franklin Figueroa trash receptacle at the corner of Franklin and Figueroa. Downtown 4 is the Pearl Figueroa Mutt Mitt dispenser. PRC recommendation, just include this in the citywide 5 whole area. And then downtown 10 is the Pearl Street intersection improvements. This price has been reduced. Reform the curbs. Cortez, so the question came up. Traffic engineer really wants the bulbs at Figueroa. Keep the bulbs in, reduce the travel period there. This is the question that came up. Because we have a major school, we have a big park, we have a sports center, we prefer to keep this bulbed out. But I did reduce the cost on Cortez, and I can get by with just doing the side. These do not have existing ramps. There's ramps across the street, but the main flow is going this way, not like cross street like a Figueroa. So I can get by with just doing these ramps, but they get really expensive because I have to deal with drainage in the middle of the ramp. So we cut the price down. This is the price for both. So Figueroa is about $158,000 intersection. This intersection is $71,000.
You have to do both.
No, the submitter put both in.
Okay.
If he comes to voting night and see how the rounds go, he could, whatever he wants to do, but he'd have to come. I think he may be here tonight in the audience. So I know the public, we could talk a little more about that. So with that, I'll open up comments for downtown 3, 4, and any more comments on these 3? Downtown 3, 4?
Question, are you aware that the one in Figueroa on the southwest corner, when that drainage, that storm drain there drains all the way from the church and all the way down Pearl Street, and that will back up and flood out the properties that are on that corner. So there's some questions, I know from experience, having had my office flooded, that you may not be aware of this. And it happened on more than one occasion. So it occurs to me, are you aware that maybe that storm drain is not quite big enough?
We will check out the capacity of the outlet.
Talk to the owners there,
Okay,
if you're not aware of it.
we will check that out. This gets funded. Any other comments?
Hold on, make it worse.
Downtown 3, I know that you said that you've got the map that has the dot that shows where there is demand. And,
Yes.
and the demand was usually where there was a bus stop, but there isn't a bus stop here. The bus stop is at Adams. And this is a cost to the city to empty it. So, unless I hear from Louis that the Parks Division is prepared to absorb it, then we're looking at perhaps another part of the city organization that would be picking it up. And since it isn't a bus stop, I'm looking at this and saying, I'm not really sure that we've got the pedestrian traffic that would support this. And I'm not, on the price tag isn't stopping me. The concern I have is that this is now adding a trash can where there hasn't been one. And as the city is tightening down, do they really want to pick up another trash can?
And I talked with our man that runs the disposal company, Ted Tronsis, and he couldn't get me a commitment if they could add it or not under the current contract.
Would we expect to hear from him before, by the second?
I asked the
of
question,
May?
I don't know.
I doubt if it's on the list, because it's not anywhere near what we pick up right now.
Yeah, probably not.
So probably not.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Marilyn,
What happened to the beach shower?
they're requesting to add a shower.
We haven't done.
We haven't talked to that one yet.
Okay.
Oh, we did the ones because
She was
Cliff had to leave.
outside.
Any other comments on these three? I'll open up to the public for downtown 3, 4, and 10. Please come up.
I'd like to speak to 3. 3 was submitted because of just
Can you state your name, sir?
Pat McNeil. I live in Pearl Street. And it's just, we see it. We see the trash there, we see people hanging out on the sidewalks along PG&E and on that little grassy corner, and trash accumulates and it just blows down the street, ends up in the ocean or in somebody else's yard.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please step up.
Hi, I'm Matthew Kyler. I submitted downtown 10. I live on the corner of Pearl and Figueroa. Yes, we would be willing to section them out if we had to choose one. One of the reasons why we, as a neighborhood, submitted for Cortez as well for a bulb out was because that 3 blocks right there, or 2 blocks right there, turns into a drag strip for people when they come out of the intersection of Pearl and Figueroa. They gun it and they just go as fast as they can until they get to El Acero. And a bulb out at Cortez would cause them to slow down subconsciously because it narrows it down and they don't feel as comfortable driving fast. The other thing is that when you're driving down Pearl right there, it's hard to see that there's an intersection from Cortez, and we've seen several accidents at that intersection. So one of the reasons why we were looking at the bulb outs there was to also indicate that there is an intersection there and give the cars coming across Cortez a little bit more of a room to kind of nose out into the road into a protected space.
You know, I didn't get back to you after the result of this thing. I could put back in my original estimate because we haven't designed with the bulb outs. But it's basically, so it took about $350,000 project.
Yeah, so I mean, it might be something that we like share with the Department of Public Works and like something like that. I don't know if it's.
I don't think this is on a Measure S. I'm still trying to find that out. This Measure S, they have to rebuild curb ramps. But if it's just a maintenance seal, they won't touch the ramp. So that's one thing I need to find out, but they haven't got commitment on all the streets. So I got a sharing cost, but there wouldn't be any other CIP costs to share with this. If it's just a maintenance seal, it's gonna be done. Just because it's a concrete street with an AC overlay, we don't have all the alligator problems. We have like all the other streets in the city. I worked with you a little more on this one.
Okay, so that was just the neighborhood's thought on this was those concerns. And the accessibility on the south side of Pearl, that, you know, those intersections that are indicated there, nobody can get up those if they have any sort of mobility issues whatsoever.
I'm gonna be blunt.
Yeah.
We're looking at less money this year than we had last year by probably $1 million. We really like to be able to fund projects to every neighborhood if we can.
Yeah.
Because we have less money, that's why we're asking, would you be willing to do one of the intersections instead of 2?
Well, and I think that, you know, as was indicated, the Figueroa intersection with the school there, and the ball fields and all of that, I mean, that's a very high traffic intersection. So if we're gonna pick one of the two, yes, I think that that would be
Okay,
a good one to prioritize.
at this time, we can leave it as 229,
Yeah,
but if it doesn't get funded right away, and you're telling us that you'd be willing to go with
oh,
one
oh,
intersection
absolutely,
instead of two.
Yeah, the Figueroa would be a very useful intersection, I think,
Okay.
to service all of the communities that are
As the
using that.
person who submitted it, you have power in this situation that nobody else has.
Yeah, so, I mean, so I don't know if you want me to document that revision, or if.
Like, we did it right here then, so basically on voting night, if the total project's not getting funded, we'll cut it down just to the 158 for Figueroa and for.
Okay, great. Well, that's why I came.
Yeah.
That way, it'd be great for you to come voting night, but if you're not here, I can initiate that.
All right,
Because I've got your budget. I'll talk to you a little more before voting night.
great, that's wonderful. All right, thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
All right,
Jeff, is this considered part of the downtown traffic plan? Because this is a
downtown
traffic
specific
calming-
plan? No, I don't think so.
Isn't this a traffic calming issue? Don't you have to have
Well,
a
it's a
plan?
four-way stop at Figueroa, there's no traffic calming.
If you do bulb outs,
What's that?
if you do bulb outs, is it traffic calming? If it is, we have to do a study
I don't
first.
think-
Every neighborhood's had to do a study. We don't
Downtown
ad
doesn't
lib.
have a traffic calming study.
Well, we can't ad lib traffic calming elements. That's the purpose of the council decision on traffic plans.
Okay. What's that?
I mean, the reason why I did not submit it as a traffic calming was because it's not, like, the bulb outs are just a side, like, the bulb outs at Figueroa are just a side effect that they do traffic calming, but,
Okay, I'll get back to you on that one.
yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna check to see
One
if
rule
there's
for
any,
everybody.
S
You have to
money?
do a study.
On all these projects, I just haven't got commitment back
Yeah.
Let's try
on
this.
this.
I will echo the aspect, if you're on Cortez and you're trying to get onto Pacific Street, you gotta really get out there before you're able to see past the parked cars, and the cars are coming fast.
Okay.
So it would be definitely a safety improvement. And you got the cross gutters too.
All right, you want to bring Kurt back? Downtown 2 is the Del Monterey Beach shower station. Install a shower for the beach users for their feet, basically. And downtown 5 is the harbor parking lot EV charging station. So out partial funding to help us buy, in conjunction with the other funds, to put charging stations down at the waterfront parking lot. Any comments on these two, downtown 2 or downtown 5?
The only comment on downtown 5 is currently on the city parking lots, they have charging stations, and they're not charging to use the charging station. You only have to pay the parking fee. So the city has a policy about charging stations, and they only charge the parking fee.
Okay. Rick?
Yeah, I guess my question is, why can't this all be funded out of the parking fund?
We can, someone put a request in.
Okay.
Or the Tidelands Fund.
What?
Or the Tidelands Fund.
Could be all kinds of funds.
All right.
Yeah.
Jamie?
It's
I
project.
believe that the charging stations that are around now are what you call the lower voltage, and so you'll want the more expensive, higher voltage, fast charging stations.
That's what these are.
That get it usable, so it is a commitment. There are third parties, ChargePoint and EVgo are both putting in a chain through the Bay Area, and will probably be the logical folks to bring in for this area. So it's a little bit different than what we have, and would provide a different value.
So currently, the parking fund or Thailand fund is paying for, we're putting conduit in now as we have the lot for Dennis.
Will it charge a Tesla?
What's
No.
that?
Will it charge a Tesla?
We
You've
hope.
got your own.
Tom?
I know that the ground level of the West Custom House Garage there's no fee to park there, it's free.
Yeah,
So
that's
people
true.
charging their cars are
That's
getting a
right.
freebie from the city, totally
Yep.
free.
You're right.
Yes.
That's right.
Don't say it too much.
Any openness to the public for downtown 2 or downtown 5? Any comments?
Hi, Ellen McEwen, Parks and Rec. We discussed the beach shower station, and I think years ago there were beach showers. Our concern is we do want people to be able to clean their feet off because they've been cleaning them off in the bathroom that was recently remodeled there, and I guess it kind of gums up the works. So I don't know if the submitter specified, but our suggestion was to have them be foot showers rather than overhead showers, so it wouldn't be for people who are trying to take their bath. It would just be to clean off their feet. And I think that that would sort of encourage people to not use bathrooms. So, there you have it.
Thank you. Any other step up, sir?
Pat McNeil. The Coast Guard Pier has a shower, and San Carlos Beach has a shower, and they're well used. They're used by divers, by swimmers, and by boaters, and so on. But Del Monte Beach doesn't. And there's the Wahine Project is bringing in hundreds of girls every year to learn to surf. There's swims, scheduled swims all week long, and then plus just families coming in. And I think it would be very appropriate to have the beach shower at that location also. The muck pit dispenser is, well, you just have to walk on the sidewalks every day.
We can't talk about that one. I closed public comment.
The charging is an opportunity for Monterey to just say, look, we're a destination city. We want to support the environment. We want to support people who travel in electric cars and have a place where you can get your car charged while you're here.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would just like to talk about the Del Monte Beach shower. I've been surfing there since the early 60s, and the water's gotten really bad. There are days I won't go out. I've gotten eye infection, I've gotten ear infections there. I think the shower would actually be really useful. It's the one beach that doesn't have it, and it's really heavily used, and unfortunately it's downstream. So this would be a really good idea, and I would even think so. But yeah, it's really badly needed.
Thank you. Any other comments? Bring it back to the board.
I'm
Sure.
gonna ask a question. Can I do that?
Well, you can go on the board. I brought it back to the board. You don't have to go to the podium.
I'm not really.
He's an alternate.
Oh, you're the alternate, oh, you're alternate because Hans is.
Yes, I'm an alternate.
Yeah, you
Okay.
need,
Gene's over there.
then you need to come out. And Gene, yeah, well,
Us
before I
so he
close public
forgets.
comment, bring your comment up.
Yeah, well, I'll just do it from here.
Do it from there, that's fine.
I'm there, but I'm here. So is Parks and Recreation opposed to the shower, overhead shower?
No, we suggested, we weren't clear whether it was gonna be an overhead shower or a foot shower.
Okay.
And we were completely supportive of the foot shower. We didn't know if it would be a magnet for homeless people if it were an overhead shower.
So there is a concern.
There was a concern, and also we wanted to know what hours it was intended to be used.
So you don't want homeless people to shower?
Is this a closed shower or is this an open shower?
It's an open shower.
Open shower,
It's
right?
open.
Yeah.
May I speak? Yeah, I'm also medical director of the mobile medical clinic, and we serve the homeless, and I'm very much in support of the homeless, but it needs to be done in a way that won't impact the non-homeless people who have come to the beach to enjoy it. We have showers for women at Gathering for Women. We have many shelters in this area, and there are other stand-up showers for people. So I'm very much an advocate, and I do a lot of volunteer time to support the homeless. I'm a family physician, and we see them in the emergency department all the time.
Gene?
Is the shower at the San Carlos Beach and the shower at the Coast Guard here, are they overhead?
Yes, and that's what I was imagining, you'd have both a foot wash and for your dog, and something that would be above your head to wash off your body, because you really need to wash off your face.
Yeah, Coast Guard Pier, I think it's a paid shower. Where the San Carlos Beach is just when you stand out there with cold water.
The Coast Guard has warm water.
Warm
And
water,
that's
right.
why you pay.
And I think they pay for those with
Right.
warm water.
But this would be a cold shower.
And out in the open, I would suspect.
And you're standing out there for all the world to see you, so it isn't like you're going to strip down. And I think a cold shower is going to discourage anybody standing there for very long. I'm remembering my youth and playing there at that beach, and I got more than my feet standing. It was good to be able to wash it all off. So having a head a little higher probably.
Is it
would be better.
is it a problem right now at San Carlos?
No. No, but it's a different usage, it's
Yeah.
highly used by
It's a
adults.
skin diver beach over there.
Hundreds of people.
Is that it for comments on these two?
I just want to weigh in and say, as far as the EV charging station, there is so much money in the Tideland Harbor Fund. I'm not seeing that is something that NIP really needs to take on at this time. There are a lot of other things that only we can do, and they are putting some charging stations in there now. Obviously, there are more vehicles that are going to be wanting that, but I'm not feeling that NIP is necessarily the place to be funding that.
Okay.
I think there should be charging stations there, but there's a couple very well-endowed funds that cover that area that could be paying for it without it having to be come out of NIP.
All right. So with that, we'll get on to downtown 6 is downtown award trash recycling closures, going down Alvarado through downtown. Downtown 7 is the Anthony Camino Estero 88 curb ramps. Downtown 9 is the Seminole Plaza Trader Joe's rapid pedestrian activated flashing lights. With that, open up to public comment. Cliff, you want to add anything to those three?
The, just on DT9, I think we mentioned it before, but that is a highly traveled area for pedestrians. And then the Anthony and El Estero, that's the only section on that side of El Estero that doesn't have ADA ramps. So people that are at that go to the funeral homes or even at the church, parking there is problematic anyway, so they may have to park on the side streets. And to get to the funeral home or the church, they have to go up the curb rather than having the ADA. And in the downtown trash receptacles, these are enclosures, not the trash cans themselves. And it's just to make it a little nicer downtown. And Jeff, I sent you a umbrella. There are funds available that we might be able to apply.
At the grants, yeah.
As a grant, rather than NIP having to pay for this.
Richard?
Yeah, downtown 9. That's one of the worst crosswalks I've seen in the city. It's from the Seminole Plaza to Pete's Coffee, and it's heavily trafficked both directions. And it seems like nobody knows what they're doing there because the cars weave through the pedestrians. And you know, that's against the law, but apparently we don't have traffic enforcement anymore. So I think that's one of the biggest bangs we can get for our buck is keep somebody from getting hit there. And I know it's a lot of money, but
94,000.
it's like the sports center flashing crosswalk.
Yeah, ours was 200.
Tom?
Major question. At one time, the ONBA
You're not
board
supposed to go
looked at
until
all
they
of the
Can we
intersections.
keep it down side here, Tom?
The ONBA board looked at all the intersections and all the parking completely. And we had, we worked with the traffic engineer of the city. And the thing is, my question is, has ONBA given any kind of input on DT six and DT nine. If they haven't, I suggest they need to.
Okay.
Previously, I.
You mean seven of them?
Seven.
You
Well,
said six.
Probably
of them.
seven also, well, no,
Six-
that's not
six-
within OMBA.
Home base 6 and 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's
Yep.
OMBA?
Old Monterey Business.
Business
Oh, okay.
Association.
Rick,
Yeah, actually, I submitted this, the crosswalk lights on behalf of a neighbor. You think 94,000, we asked for the same thing in our neighborhood, and it was 200, so it's actually a steal.
it's 126.
No, excuse me, 126.
For you, this week's only 126.
Yeah, I think it probably also includes some ADA improvement too, not just the
Well,
lights.
that's what
We're
I
we're
wanted.
redoing the one ramp's been done, we're redoing the
Yeah.
ramp at Seminole Plaza.
So it's not just the lights
Yeah.
for 94,000.
It's a whole curb ramp on that corner of the bus plaza.
Unfortunately. They won't just,
I mean, how much for the light installation?
they
I
won't
mean,
tell
I
us because
know-
they will not do it without the other curb ramp happening.
We have to redo this whole curb around the corner of the bus
Just
plaza,
like-
because I can't fit an RBF light in a small crosswalk with the base. I won't even have 32 inches. And this side's been done.
I'm
I'll have to
wondering
redo
how
some.
much money it costs. I mean, remember, you're talking to an old fogey here who used to get the handicap ramps for 1,500. So we're way several generations down the road, and that's, I'd like the breakout. I mean,
Okay.
how much for the ramp? And I realized with these activation things, it has to go across, it's in the pavement, and then you've got the installations on both sides, so I mean,
The new ones, we don't have to tie them together in the pavement. They'll talk to each other. The ones we just called the big but we eliminated that. We got that cost down. I'll send you the breakout.
all right.
They should, like, heavily needed. I had a little sticker shock when the price.
Okay, Marilee?
If people are being sort of, if cars are going in and out between people, is there maybe, instead of flashing lights, maybe is there some noise we could use there?
This is the MTUC
Spikes
standard.
that come.
Any other questions? Okay.
How many trash enclosures are we talking about in downtown six?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7, wasn't it?
7. I think we have 7 locations. Down around going through there.
Okay, so
Can't turn
they're-
my neck, so.
This starts top of all around right here in
I
Pearl,
don't turn
going
that.
down through here
3,000
to Del Monte.
Yeah, just,
They run about 3,000 a piece?
What's that?
They run about $3,000 a piece?
Roughly 25,000 divided by 7, be 21, a little over. Time
And-
to get them installed.
And there are possible grants?
Or it could be, we'd have to apply for them. No, anytime we get a funded NIP project, we see what grants are out there, so we can share costs, reduce costs. There are probably some grants, but someone needs to, this money would fund someone to apply for grants, and we could
And
probably get some.
And you said that downtown 7 was not a candidate for S or N?
I'm
or-
verifying that, I haven't got that verified yet. We have the information, request in, anything with a curb ramp of any of these NIP projects, I'm saying it will be, so I cut my costs down to shared costs, I haven't got that information back yet.
All right.
Did I open this up to public?
No, not yet.
I'd like to open this up to public for downtown 6, 7, and 9. Have anybody like to speak to this?
say that again?
Any public comment on downtown 6, 7, or 9, the trash cans? The downtown 6 is the trash and recycle enclosures. DT 7 is the Anthony, curb ramps. Is that downtown 7, Seminole Plaza, Trader Joe's, rapid reflectors for pedestrians.
I thought I had to cover not hear the discussion, I'm so sorry. So I'm new to this, so Kurt, I should comment on these, or?
You can come up and comment.
You come up and comment, more than welcome.
You submitted it.
So I can comment on what I said?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You can comment on anything.
Okay.
You're not
Well,
limited to that one.
she's got a 55-foot rule in a couple.
Oh, okay, well, except for where you have cover.
Well, I put down for the downtown trash recycling enclosures because I live downtown, and the trash problem downtown is just horrible. And the current trash cans that we have are just totally inadequate. They don't hold recycling, there's cigarette butts everywhere. And so it's just been kind of a pet peeve of mine for a while. I happen to be in Cambria, and these sort of, they're all custom made, and I thought, that's what downtown needs. And now that I saw that, everywhere I go now, I see trash cans, like, oh, look what PG's doing, and everybody else. And so they're really making an effort to make recycling and trash very different, and making it much easier to recycle and informing people what goes into recycling, and then also to providing for cigarette butts, which is a big, big issue, because washes down today. And I think it could make a statement about the city itself, being environmentally friendly and all that. So, any questions?
Thank you.
I'm going to comment.
I'll bring that back. Anybody else in the audience? I'll bring it back to the board.
The thing that I see here is, I know that there is a specific plan for the downtown. There are guidelines for what the enclosures can look like. What I'm unclear about is who's going to do it. I mean, is it going to be engineers making the decision? I mean, always there seem to be aesthetic things. I know that when we were doing newspaper racks years ago for one of the corners, it was a big deal. Planning commission got involved. I mean, everybody was getting into the design. So I'm just wondering, I mean, what course do you see this one taking? Who all is going to weigh in? I mean, is it going to be Louis who's going to say, we got it? Or is it going to be?
No, any project is, it's the same as Jack's ballpark lighting, but it's in the downtown specific plan. I was the engineer, but I worked with planning, make sure I was in compliance. We actually had to write special language to have those lights on there. So being in the downtown specific plan before we move forward, we would work with them first, get their input, and go forth and have them approve the design.
I think the trash enclosures are going to be a bigger deal.
No, I know.
Than the lighting was. I mean, everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah, that's part of the process.
Okay.
Oh, wait, question. So a couple years back, we looked for recycling, and what I heard, I thought, was we just don't have a recycling program. And so, again, I really think we should be doing recycling, but I'd hate to see us set a bunch of money aside, because this is our goal, and then there's no potential that happens. So do we have that in the works, or a possibility, or what's the story on that?
So, we have recycled cans out there, we just don't recycle, so. We don't have the staff.
I know, that's why I'm asking.
So we're hiding the
To
cans.
be honest with you. Now, the way this works out though is we have the recycled cans and people will go in there and take the recycles out of the cans.
Yeah.
So we do have that part of the recycling. But I don't foresee us having a recycle program unless we run it through Monterey Disposal and they're doing the recycling. That's what they do down Alvarado Street. We don't have the staff to sit there and separate and take recycling.
So if we could have a design that allows for people to access it. A lot of these cities, the design for recycling does not let third parties get in and get it.
Right.
So I think that needs to be a part of this.
I think with the crash of the recycling,
Yeah.
no one buying it, there's not someone will take it. It could be an asset. Okay, I had a question over here. Luz?
Just following the recycle, it seems to me that it's getting very confusing about what they are doing or what we are supposed to be doing with the recycle. And they're just increasing prices, and yet they're telling, you cannot recycle this here, you cannot recycle there. So I'm a little unclear about the recycling at the moment.
And when we have the problems with our recycling, people throw trash in recycling. So then it becomes a thing of whether we're gonna go in there and separate the trash from the recycles ourselves, which would be very time consuming.
I think you more than that, from what I heard, yeah.
Any other comments on these?
I just want to make sure everyone understands, this is enclosures to hide the things that are there. It's not adding a new program that doesn't exist.
Right.
It's not adding trash cans, it's not adding recycle cans, it's doing a much nicer enclosure to hide what's there.
Yeah, a uniform enclosure down through the Eldorado.
But you're paying,
Pretty box.
you're paying for a structure though, you're paying for a
Yes.
structure that, right now we just have a can, now you're
Yeah,
paying
you're
for a
paying,
fancy.
you're paying to enclose it and hide it with stuff.
All right,
Aren't we
good
paying
conversation.
something that looks better for tourists?
Okay, with that, we'll move on. We're good?
No, I think I'm watching the clock, and we have to start watching the
I
clock.
know, we're getting there.
We have 12.
To what?
So, we have Monte Vista one's a radar sign, speed radar sign, downhill side, 495 Monte Vista Drive. Monte Vista 2 has been changed to a feasibility study for a six courts. I'm working on the price out, identify a suitable location for 6 court, but include, review the potential of the sites, the engineering studies, and construction cost estimates like we do for all the NIP projects. Monte Vista's 3 is a 751 Dry Creek drain grate upgrade. The Monte Vista 4 is 53 El Camino del Norte streetlights. With that, open up discussion on these 4.
Our neighborhood is conducting a survey now, and so we will share, probably on voting night, our first and second, third and fourth.
If you could do it on the second, that would be helpful.
Well, it's not our night on the second. I would gladly do it on the second, but it's not our night.
Yeah,
Right?
we should have it on our agenda that we share our priorities, because we're going to be sitting and deciding
Okay.
how we're gonna vote, and then it does matter.
Can we do that, Jeff?
Yeah.
Can we agendize that? Okay.
You can also do it under commission.
Yeah, for the
commissioner
May
comments.
2nd,
That's right.
agendized priority for all projects. Yeah, we have it on there. Actually, it's regular on these, okay. Any other comments on these 4 Monte Vista? With that, I open up to the public for Monte Vista 1, 2, 3, and 4. Good evening, Pat.
Good evening, Pat Dunza, Monterey Vista. Number 1, we have had this before asking for money, and then the site would disappear on us and neighbors wouldn't cooperate. Well, now we have the site, the person who owns the house at 495 has also surveyed everyone around them, and we are good to go, for sure.
Today.
And
He's not gonna sell his house between
not
now
only
and
that, it works in well with our other traffic calming coming down Mar Vista. So for $11,000, I'm hoping we're going to fund it ourselves. Hint, hint. So we think it's going to be a high priority. You want me to keep going?
That was a gentle push.
What are you doing with MV2?
You turn that into a feasibility study, anywhere in the city.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be a citywide then?
Yeah.
Yes,
Now for
citywide
this
study.
year or
Yes.
for next year?
The construction cost to build the 6.
Okay, my feeling on this is that, first of all, one of the neighbors that was here was totally against the 6 courts at the Aparizo because it's right across the street from her, and what was being proposed was just going to totally influence our neighborhood. So as long as our neighborhood's out of it, I guess I shouldn't have a whole lot to say about it. But on the other hand, it should not be a feasibility study. It should be written up the way Richard wrote up the basketball court, that it would be citywide and the Parks and Recreation find a place for it, but not that's different than a feasibility study.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't like
We let them pick it.
feasibility study. We just
Let them
fund
pick
it
and
and
tell
go
them.
find a spot for it, but not in Monterey Vista.
Thank you, Pat.
So,
You moderate.
I'll have a follow-up question here.
So,
So, we talked earlier on this, and I'm a little hazy. So, the person proposing this has asked for citywide and a feasibility study. So this is, okay, that, I misunderstood earlier.
Hello, my name is Barbara Lang, and I'm a pickleball player. I'm on the board of the Monterey Bay Pickleball Club, and we've been really hoping that we would get courts this year, which I don't think is going to happen. But I don't know what you want to call it. We want to have permanent courts. we don't know where. I mean, land is a premium here. So we play Via Paraiso, we love it there. We don't have enough courts there. You know, we have people waiting. There's only 4 courts, so we don't want to be a nuisance to anybody, but we have a lot of people that love the sport and get out there. So, you know, if it's better to fund us and find a place, we're fine with that. So all we want to do is find a place to play and not have to take time from the tennis players, you know, or upset neighbors. So I don't know, Jeff, with, you know, that we were told the feasibility study was better than the $1 million it would have cost to do Via Paraiso. Right? So that was a no.
The reference was when we did the basketball courts, we had an estimate to build a basketball court, already a graded lot, it was only $100,000. We did the feasibility, we did the study, where could it go? We ended up building about a $300,000 basketball court. So we already know the Via Paraiso site's almost $1 million because we've done the pre there. This would be doing, if you want, if I talk to Jay, if he wants to put in the cost for the construction, we can just guess now, and we actually find a site, we can adjust it then.
No.
Or do you want, what they asked for was just to get the engineering study and find the site. That's what said in the Parks and Rec with Jay, kind of like, let's look at it this year, find the site, then we know kind of, that's why we're doing the engineering costs and have the cost.
Is it coming back to me now to comment to?
Not yet,
Okay.
I'll close out public comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Barbara.
You know,
Anybody
I'm
else
looking,
like to
sorry.
comment?
Hi, Ellen McEwen, Parks and Rec again. We've been hearing from the pickleball people in the pickleball community. They are a wonderful community, great way for people to meet one another, and we really, really wanted to find a good spot for them, and we thought we had it until we found out that it was going to be so incredibly expensive in that area because of, I guess, the subsoil had things in it. And not knowing much about subsoils, $1 million project just did not seem like the right thing. So, in speaking to Jeff, we worked on this idea for a feasibility study, because if we're gonna do it, this is a big thing. It means an awful lot to a lot of active people in Monterey, and we highly support what they want to do. So we wanted to do it right with a real study to find out how it impacts the various neighborhoods. There may be some neighborhoods that are more likely to want to do this than others, and finding this information out would be best done by a feasibility study. Thank you.
27 minutes.
Is it coming back to us yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Close.
Sorry, my name is Michael Lang. Sorry, I think I'm the last one on pickleball. I just wanted to, so Jay is the guy who submitted the proposal, you've already probably seen before. He's actually traveling in Amsterdam, so he couldn't be here tonight. So I just wanted to somewhat apologize because I kind of think we've been kind of throwing you a whole bunch of different ideas, and we may look like we just don't know what we're doing. And it's mainly because we're just struggling to find a place that we can play. We actually had a meeting with the city council in Pacific Grove last night. I don't know, any of you caught the 11 o'clock news, but they were there. Basically, we have a big controversy with the residents of Pacific Grove at the only other public place that we can play on the peninsula. And they cut our hours down, so we can only play there, I think, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3-4 hours. Yeah, and it just so happens to correspond exactly with the hours that we can play Via Paraiso. So it was really kind of a big defeat for us. So we're a little bit frustrated right now, and so I just wanted to express that what we're just looking for is someplace to play. And the reason for doing a feasibility study is because we know the $1 million is about. Yeah. I mean, that's the most important, at least half the budget. So if you guys can maybe bear with us for another year, see what we can come up with.
Thank you. Any other public comment? With that, I'll bring it back. Jean?
I want to speak with great respect for all the pickleballers and for Parks and Rec. You've worked hard. And for the engineers and the NIP committee. This has been a tough one. This has been very tough. I spoke in February to Jay that I would not be supportive of a feasibility study through NIP. He came back without consulting me or the team and made it a feasibility study. I join, I think, a lot of the NIP people. This is not a responsibility of NIP to do a feasibility study on a sports location. That is Parks and Rec. I don't think it should be NIP money. I've tried to work with the pickleballers that Parks and Rec has to locate a suitable location on their dime and on their agenda and their purview. And when that's located, if you want to come back with proposals in whatever area, we will consider them. I have worked very hard with Jay on this, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Rick?
A couple things. First, I think this should be moved to CW 47.
There was a CW, or this one?
Because if it's as a feasibility study and it's labeled as Monterey Vista, that tends to mean
Okay.
it's in Monterey
Makes
Vista.
sense.
So if it's a feasibility study, it needs to be citywide.
Yeah.
We have done, as a commission, we have done multiple feasibility studies on multiple things. We did a feasibility study to find a location for a basketball court. We did a feasibility study to find a location for a dog park, although now people want a different one. We did a feasibility study to find a location for the RV storage area, because it was a way of having it happen and making sure, and giving the seed money to be able to do it. Now, we're not talking, it shouldn't be a huge amount, so I don't know what you would necessarily be including, but to where it could feasibly be done somewhere in the city. We've done that multiple times, and as a commission, we've supported those type of things to get, I think it's needed somewhere. The question is where. I don't happen to think it's be a private park, I think impacts it too much. But I think there's other areas potentially, and to do the same approach we did with basketball, I think is appropriate here. But it's a citywide project.
Sharon?
Yes, I just want to point out, when we started this cycle, the pickleball players found 3 possible locations. It wasn't until Parks and Rec and the pickleball players were all on the same page, yippee, we're moving ahead, that we then found out that there was a dump site there and would cost $1 million to do it. Which is recommending taking a look and saying, if there are other sites that are large enough for 6 pickleball courts, let's know ahead of time whether we've got a dump underneath, and we'll keep looking.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think they have done their due diligence. I think that this is a fallback position. They were not asking for this initially, but they did everything within their power to find a location, and even that blew up. So I think at this point, they're saying, we're not asking for money now for a pickleball court. Give us the opportunity to work with staff to find a location that could work. And then we'll ask NIP for some money. And I think they've tried to do it. They've tried to find a place. And I think at this juncture, this is the only option left them. I really do. I think that for a small amount of money, we can help staff find a place where
make sure it's
this
really
sport,
feasible.
right, where this sport could actually have its needs met and not be stepping on some other sport. The tennis players have not been happy, and they've had to have half a loaf. If they actually had pickleball courts, they could play pickleball anytime.
Right.
And the tennis players and nobody else would care. So I think where you started is right. I believe that they did what they could, and that this is truly their fallback position. It's not where they started.
And does Parks and Rec have their own budget?
No.
No, they need some additional
They have no money.
funding, so that's what this would be paying for, is staff time.
Dennis?
I walked that area where we were looking at putting this pickleball thing. It would be a complete filling in that ravine, filling in that other part, cutting out those trees. Irrespective of what's underneath the dirt there, that's a lot of grading and fooling around in a very restricted area where you'd have to bring in heavy equipment to even get to it. It was a compromise that was not a good one to begin with. I really think that Ryan Ranch Disc Golf has a lot of square feet. And I think that would be a potentially good place, but I think the right thing at this point is to do a study and find the right place. But some place that has real estate that doesn't have to be manufactured, because basically that's what we were looking at the Uprise Park. It was manufacturing square feet, that would be enough.
All right, got Richard, and we're wrapping these up.
I just want to clarify, the basketball court was not a feasibility study. I proposed one down at Wharf 2, everybody attacked me. So what I did was there was a figure 150,000, and we gave P&R 12 months to find a solution. And they did. They did a fantastic job. But it wasn't a study. I don't know if a study is going to give you what you want. You're going to be paying a consultant, and everybody's been looking for 3 years, and basically we're going to end up with paying a consultant, and we're not going to get anywhere. So, you know, I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but I agree we've been going too long, and
What do you recommend?
I can't see wasting money on a consultant when there's been dozens of people looking and they can't find it. So, to me, it's a waste of money.
I heard Parks and Rec staff saying they felt that we should be doing the feasibility study, that staff was not going to be able to do it if we didn't do the feasibility study. So we needed that extra little
We'll
bit.
see what the actual project is at the time of voting night, and we can make our decision.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I will say on MB4, I still wish we were referring it to the department that puts in streetlights. It is a location where having a light makes sense, in my opinion.
Any other comments?
Somebody's in the neighborhood who wants to shoot me.
All right. Oops, went the wrong way. MB5 is El Dorado Sidewalk Surface. MB7 is Mar Vista Traffic Calming Phase 1. The price is Toda Vista is $238,000. Mar Vista and Toyon's $132,000. Right now I got the total price in at $370,000. Monte Vista H, Mar Vista Soledad Improvements Phase 1. Phase 1 to do the walkway, it's over 1,000 feet along Soledad Drive, $720,000. Monte Vista 9 is Villa del Pinar realignment, Villa del Rey for $112,000. Takes the intersection of Villa del Rey, brings it into more of a constricted 90-degree intersection and defines the roadway along the curve there of Villa del Rey. Any comments on MV 5, 7, 8, 9? Sharon?
I'm not looking to see who was the proponent of MB7. I would ask, would they tell us their number one priority for intersection? We have 2 intersections there. I don't believe that we must do 2 in order to have it safer. So I would ask, which one?
Okay.
Hans?
Yeah, sorry, I submitted that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing one intersection for MV7.
It's
I
broken
got
down.
the cost in for both of them. Do you have a preference between Toda Vista or Toyon? Was the question.
The upper one, the one that we
You
had.
want to do Toda Vista? Okay.
Yeah, I think the upper one that we had.
All right.
And what's, yeah.
238.
Yeah,
I think
so
that
I'll make
was-
this
yeah,
238.
was just would, and we worked our way down the street.
Okay.
That's right, you had both prices.
Yeah, okay.
But no, I think we'll start at Toda Vista and work our way down.
Okay.
year after
That
year.
makes sense. That's a school thing. Jamie?
Isn't MV5 a fill-in on a commercial, next
It
to
is.
commercial property? So is it still on the list?
Why is it still on the list?
The applicant hasn't pulled it.
Well,
That time.
I'm sorry, but
we're not
it doesn't
allowed to
qualify.
do it.
City doesn't do it.
City does not allow us to spend money on sidewalks on commercial, that's city council
So it
fault.
doesn't matter
So-
about the
well, I don't know.
proposal.
Doesn't have anything
So
to
we
do with the
visited,
vote.
so we went to see that site earlier on. It's basically the only dirt section of sidewalk, but he says, I mean, and I don't know whether he's right or not, but he says, yes, I maintain it the way the city builds it. They built it as dirt, it stays dirt. He mows it or whatever.
No, it's commercial property.
We're not allowed to do sidewalks adjacent to commercial property that's being used as commercial property. That's been long-standing city policy.
Stay on.
So even to build it to begin with?
To
Okay.
build it to begin with,
Right.
because the city can actually require him to build a sidewalk there.
City can force them.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it was a
But
house,
NIP is like the sidewalk on Garden Road, that's one of all the commercial properties. So NIP has funded sidewalks in commercial lots. But it's been a lot of years. That was back in the 80s with Baco.
So what does it take
Yeah,
to
no,
get
that
the
was my
city
project.
to ask them to?
I'll refer this to public
Keep up
records.
those credit.
Okay.
That's going to be vehicle code.
I don't know who's.
That walking track
All
along
right, any other
the
questions?
road, yeah.
I'll pull this out to the public for any comments on MV 5, 7, 8, or 9. Please just stand up and we'll get ready.
MV7, I totally agree that we need to start at the top of that hill. We're still in the midst of continuing talking to people, right, Jeff?
We have one more.
Yeah, one more
One more
meeting.
meeting, but the idea from Skyline all the way down is not to wait to the bottom of the hill to say stop. That we need to slow them down as they're coming down, and I think this will be a good start to slowing them down with that and our radar sign. We may not need to fix the bottom, which is gonna be really expensive. MV8, it's not gonna happen not only because of the price tag, but we haven't interviewed any of the houses along there. And I don't think we're gonna convince residents that they're willing to give up that many parking spaces along the way.
What about MD9?
I have nothing to say about it. It's, yeah.
That's the best one.
I was the one who submitted MV5. I walk that street weekly on my way to the gallery, and what I see are women with canes, walkers, and wheelchairs trying to get through that muddy section. If there's a way we can refer it to the city and have them fix it, it would be wonderful.
All right, we'll get back to you.
Questions?
Jeff?
Thanks, Kathy.
Any other questions out of the public?
Yeah, I'll ask my question right now.
Yeah. You really messed me up on this too.
Yeah.
I couldn't leave the room there because you grouped them. Do we need to do it differently? I'm supposed to be out of the room on one of those.
Yeah, I didn't bring my list, who's that?
Okay, well, yeah, I should.
You plugged your ears.
We'll rectify.
Your intent was good, the word of the day.
Okay, one more comment on the public? I'll bring, do you have a comment?
Just got a question, how much is the fund this year?
$6 million.
We don't know yet. We'll find out more next Wednesday.
You're gonna,
It's gonna be, we don't know. We'll find out. Richard?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll close public comment, bring it back.
The MV7, Pat was talking about the traffic calming. When we did it in my neighborhood, I had to have all the affected
Yes.
property owners sign their approval before we could vote on it.
Yeah,
If we do it backwards, is it even qualified for voting night if we don't have the releases?
No, we have to get those.
It actually is, once there's a design, they have to sign off, it's before construction.
So-
Our policy is, they have to have signed the actual plan.
So we
Before
would pass the
construction.
money and then have to rescind the money?
Yeah.
Well, that kind of hurts everybody else.
But we asked them to survey beforehand, but then they also have to sign the plan once it's funded.
We'll try and get it beforehand.
You can't get them to absolutely say they're gonna do something when it's a sketch on the back of an
Yeah,
envelope.
I come back to them at the 30% level, have them sign off on it, is what we do with these projects.
But we need to see support beforehand, but it doesn't mean the
Okay.
support can't change once they see
Yeah,
it.
the house gets sold.
Any other questions? All right. Monte Vista 11 is Greenbelt fuel reduction. Monte Vista 12 is Via Pranzo basketball court. Parks and Rec said, do not look at the expansion to the half court. Just go to the reconstruction of the existing basketball court backside of Via Pranzo Park. So I'm putting in the cost of $111,000, not the larger price you saw before. Any open up phone comment? Jamie?
So when we looked at it today, we talked about its increased
No,
utility.
wrong part, wrong part.
We didn't look at this
It's
today.
Park, be a Brazil Park.
That's the tour we should have done.
All right.
Is this now not move, this is leaving the path the way it is, and it's not moving it towards the path?
Yeah, I'm not expanding the,
Okay.
the court, just gonna reconstruct it. And so that's the cost came down a third more or less.
Yeah.
Good.
Does that cost include ADA?
It has a little bit of 20% cost. I'll have to check, we've done a little bit there, but right now it includes some of the ADA, 20% that I wanna check.
You know, I went online and I was doing some research on the ADA requirements. And there are different requirements for public agencies than there are for private property owners. And they said as long as there was accessibility to the activity, that we didn't have, we were not required to go over the 20%, but we might not be required to pay the full 20% if the activity that was being touched had an accessible path. So I hope we're not just knee-jerk doing 20% every time.
No, what we're doing
Because maybe we
is,
don't have to.
we've got an ADA transition study, that highlights everything wrong in the park. I don't have to fix everything, I could, but I don't, I just fix what, in the area where I'm building. That's where we fix the ADA improvements, because I'm not, to do the whole park would be too expensive.
Well, I know that we had the parking lot thrown in for the Schultz wall. And then the parking lot was at the other end, and it had nothing at all to do with the activity being disturbed.
Right,
So
that
I just
particular one,
don't,
yeah.
I wanted, I mean, 111,000, I mean, are we tearing it up and rebuilding it entirely? I mean, we just have a lot of big prices here this year. And I'm wanting to know how much ADA are we getting with it, you know, and is it actually tied to that activity center? Because we're not required to go a full 20% in every case.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, that concludes our
Public? You don't have a public.
Oh, open up the public for MV 11 and 12?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, Ellen McEwen, Parks and Rec. I just wanted to say that this is a priority project for Parks and Rec. It's a very degraded basketball court and is quite unsafe, and just making it good again for safety and for the well-being of the people in that area is something that we fully support. And we suggested the lower price tag, so it might be something that could be funded. So, thanks.
And it's their third priority.
Yes.
Do you have any statistics for how much that's used? Because locals that I've talked, or we've talked to, feel like it's an underused.
Well, probably the condition it's in, I'm sure it's way underused, yeah.
Yeah, it's underused, and it's been underused since the beginning, so I'm not sure it's about the condition. It's a weird basketball court. I don't know exactly why it was approved to go in there in the first place. It's near the pickleball thing that was proposed to go in. That was a greenbelt area. And this basketball court sits out there as an island at the edge of the park where that's built. And I'm glad to see that it was taken down in size, but people I've talked to in the community would actually like to see it go away. It's underutilized and so forth. I mean, you know, maybe resurfacing what we've got, that's not a high price tag for that, but it's something that's a little weird to the park in its location and everything, so just keep that in mind.
All right, close public comment, bring this back. So that concludes the review of we went through 39 projects tonight. We averaged 3 minutes a project. And so next May 2nd, we have 68 projects to go through. And at the same time constraints at the Schultz Center, 3 minutes would be 3.5 hours. So we're gonna have to
Be efficient.
be real, we're gonna have to be doing some due diligence on the next review on May 2nd at the Schultz Center. Dennis?
What time are you starting at the Schultz Center, and what time should we consider starting at the Schultz? Yes.
Right now, we're currently scheduled at 6:30. I'll bring this up again. Do you want to start earlier? We have to get out at the same time frame at 8:30.
And as much as the project numbers is
Actually,
almost double,
9
I'd
o'clock
say
is when-
5 would be great.
They close at 9.
We have to close out, we have to be out of there and out the door, cleaned up and done.
But 30 minutes to get us out. I mean, we have our meetings here. 5 minutes, everybody helps stack the chairs, fold the table, and we're out. So it can be done quickly.
Do you want to entertain starting a little earlier than 6:30 because we haven't set the agenda out?
I would suggest possibly, yes.
Yep. We'll need a motion on it.
Did we vote on this last meeting?
When is the next meeting?
Now we
Yeah,
discussed it.
We discussed it last meeting and we did not,
We have told all of our new Monterey people that it is
We've done that
6:30,
too.
that is what was announced.
That's what
That's
I
what we
did.
told our people.
You
So
you can't change things midstream.
Yeah, but you're starting with Fish Flats, right?
yes.
You're starting with Fish Flats, we have startup business at the beginning. If we start at 6, then
if it starts before 6:30, skip our neighborhood. Because we got people who will come
Well,
at 6:30 because
We
that's
can,
when
we
they.
can arrange that at the
but
time.
we got Fish Flats ahead of that. Should be fine.
And if it's not, we can
If it's
adjust
not, we'll
accordingly.
switch priorities, which neighborhood goes first. But if
Yeah.
we got 69 projects versus 38 for
We
tonight.
could even do 5:30 and start with citywides and start with the new Monterey neighborhood at 6:30 if we want. I'm just concerned, we got about 3.5 hours if we do 3 minutes of project. We got 68 to go through.
Gotta get to at least 5:30.
I'd say 5:30 is fine, and we'll start with citywide.
When?
Sandwiches.
When is the next meeting, excuse me?
May 2nd
May 2nd.
at the Schultz Community Center.
Dennis, you might wanna make a motion.
I move that we start the meeting, the next meeting on May 2nd at 5:30. Second.
At 5?
5:30.
And you want to say that we'll start with citywide at 5:30?
I so amended to include that we will start with citywide at 5:30. Agreed to second.
All those in favor?
I guess we don't have a choice.
All right, opposed?
I have a choice. I think it should be as it's advertised. It's already gone out.
It hasn't gone out. We'll say
Well,
that.
it's gone out for many
Oh, with our
counties.
schedule, our
Yeah.
schedule's out.
Well, we have one thing on the agenda that we hear about.
We have
tonight.
citywide, we've got a lot of citywide.
Yeah, we'll fill it with other stuff.
We'll post it on next door.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I think in general, I think this has been a rough year for changing the schedule around and detriment to the community. We have to figure out why it's happening and stop it. I think that's a complicated, I think why it's happening is complicated. I think we condensed the dates,
We spread the dates out.
Well, this
but there were fewer,
Brown Act.
but there were fewer.
Well, we all wasted.
Let's get down to the comment we have here.
Tell you what, let's go to committee member comments, we can add that in and calculate it. Want to start with Luz?
Yeah, I'm concerned that we're talking about all this money, and I don't know how much money are we gonna get? And if we are getting 2, 3, 4 million, this is not gonna cover even 1/3 of whatever people are requesting.
Typically, we have, like last year, we had over 16 million worth of requests. We only had 3.6 million to fund. So we always have more requests than we have money available. This year, I'm anticipating to be around the 3 million range, I don't know. We'll find out more next Wednesday. But we typically have requests for 16 to 17 million worth of projects we've never been able to fund.
True, one more thing. Is it possible to put a limit of the requests, of the amount of the requests?
No.
Put a limit, we cannot do that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Rick?
I think after the season's over, we need to relook at our scheduling. We experimented with a change, we'll see how it works in the scheme of things. We also probably, tonight's meeting could theoretically have had more projects on than, we didn't split half and half between the two meetings. We're stuck with Alta Mesa to Monterey Vista and New Monterey on. I think afterwards, let's take a hard look at how we're doing the things. I agree to make sure that we try to have it work from a standpoint of, so we can actually get things covered. And if that means we're not having meetings in centers where we have to leave at 8:30, it makes a whole lot more sense.
April?
No comment?
Tom? Dennis?
If it wasn't more disruptive, I'd suggest we find a different date than May 2nd and have it in a place where we could go longer. But I think that would be even more disruptive than starting at 5:30. I would say that if we ever get a chance to not have the city attorney take 2 hours in this big meeting, that we tell her no. And other than that, I guess I'll be quiet.
Thanks. Sharon?
Okay, I had asked that there be an urgency item added to our agenda, and was told that no, we could call a special meeting to talk about it. Nobody wants a special meeting, we've already had one so far this season. So, what I had wanted is for the NIP to authorize the spokespeople to talk to the city while they're still making up their 2-year budget, to say, we need at least one additional engineer to work with Jeff to get the NIP designed and built. We have a huge backlog, things are not getting done. Jeff needs help. His predecessors always had access to 3 or 4 other engineers, he has 1. And we need to be asking before they finalize the budget, because it's a 2-year budget now. So, the fact is, we couldn't vote on it tonight. Rick, Richard, and Sharon are not authorized to go and talk to staff before they finalize the budget. So it's left with NIP reps and alternates and neighborhood presidents can contact the city manager and the city council and tell them we need to have additional staffing to help Jeff get the job done. They've hired extra engineers to get the Measure S work done. That's great. But we are not getting the support for Jeff. That was part of the whole deal, where we said we would have a designated NIP person work on it, and he would have available to him support staff. And we're not getting it. And once they finalize the 2-year budget, we've got no chance of getting additional staff hired. We've got to get the message across to the decision makers and to Hans that this is something that we take seriously. When the neighborhood presidents met with Hans and the mayor, it was very, very clear. NIP was brought up, and we hammered away at it at some length, saying we've got to have more staffing to help Jeff get the job done.
So what are you recommending?
I am asking every one of you and the alternates and the presidents to contact city council members and or Hans and to say, we need to have in the budget at least one more engineer to support Jeff in getting NIP built.
Out of the NIP budget?
It's the NIP.
Out of the city budget?
It's not our
The
agreement.
city budget at this
The
point.
engineers get paid out of our project budgets if they work on them.
Yeah, so if
We
they're
spend
working
time
on
on
it,
it to get
NIP,
paid.
if you're working on a CIP, Measure S, they charge that.
The work is there, the money is
NIP,
there.
they charge NIP. Just for a side note, I think May 5th, the Public Works reorg may be on. Now authorized to, right now, we're hiring 3 engineers, authorized another 3 engineers. Look for the May 5th council agenda. If it doesn't get moved, they're gonna be bringing up the Public Works reorg, which would authorize us to hire another 3 engineers.
if neighborhoods could send a letter with a letterhead saying that it's a priority, that we want to see it happen, that might very well have some positive effect. I just don't want it to pass, because Jeff should not be expected to do with only one person what other predecessors had 3 or 4 engineers.
Could you send that out as an email that we would?
Don't count on
No, I can't have a brown hat
No.
email.
No,
I
her
can-
send.
I can speak it, I
Yeah.
can speak it.
She can't send it out as a
No,
mass
no,
email.
can't send it out
It's
mass
not
email.
on there,
Okay.
because we're all commissioners.
And let me clarify, you're proposing it be a city engineer, not NIP setting aside more of its fund balance
Correct.
to do a second position.
No, that's, you're triple paying. We're already paying them with the projects. These inflated figures pay for an engineer to do it. So do you want to pay it twice?
No,
It doesn't make sense.
If
No,
it's your
but
own
having an
engineer,
engineer
you
that can
don't
actually do
pay
the
for
work
it
is what makes
twice.
sense.
Well, yeah, if they keep stealing the bodies.
Yes.
So I'm putting it out there, at this juncture, we're not supposed to discuss it, but you've heard the concern, and if you are moved to cause a letter to be sent or a phone call to be made, I strongly urge you to do so, because the city manager made the comment to the neighborhood residents that we are now fully staffed, meaning they weren't intending to add any to it, and that's not enough.
So if I go to the May,
Hey,
May,
we have
We'll
to
get
go
comments
with
around
comments here.
Marilyn,
No,
Jean?
oh, just reiterating that, I think the schedule needs to be worked on, the dates that go out to the communities and the times that go out to the communities need more respect because the residents are coming and they're rearranging their schedules. I also want to invite anyone that wants to come. Our community is hosting a forum on our CW 31, the conduit placement, Monday night at the library from 6:15 to 7:30. You're all welcome. Steve Wittry hopes to be there to help us with some questions. So it'll be a time to spend more time on that project. You're all welcome.
Dave?
Good job keeping us on time today.
We're good. Dwayne?
I get a little scared when I see all these traffic calming things being put in, particularly in the forested areas, particularly the ones that physically slow traffic down. And the reason I say that is one of the causative factors on the lack of evacuation ability from Paradise. Keep that in mind.
Richard?
Yes, the timing is much better at the meetings now, Jeff, thank you. My concern is being with NIP from the beginning, seeing the changes in the budget amounts, and seeing the reduced budget for us. It's a math issue with me. It's like this beautiful buffet that you see that we put here for you. If two people in the front part of the line took half the amount of the food, that's the same thing as what's happening in NIP. There are 16 neighborhoods now, and one or two large projects can cut that budget down to almost nothing. And I'm really encouraged that in downtown, we've tried for 35 years to get representation, but now we're actually hearing from residents too. That pleases me so much. And we got Glenwood Circle now. Just more slices of the pie and a smaller pie every year because of the larger expenses. And I'm just worried about fairness and everybody getting a little something to make their edge of the world a little better. I'm very cautious, and I hope the ones with the very, very large projects can find a way that the other neighborhoods can share in this year, because otherwise they're not going to. Thank you.
Kurt?
The only thing, I appreciated the dance work. This is the first one I was on, and seeing it in person makes it much easier, or gives me a better idea of what that project was. So, if you've never gone on the van tour, I suggest you go on one.
Jamie?
I thank you, everybody, for your ideas and interaction. It's very helpful to us. I think we're excited about, there are many small projects that can make a difference, so we'll keep an eye out for all those as we go through our next meeting, hopefully not too quickly. So.
Will there be a finance report?
Yes, and so Finance Committee is going to meet next week to get their question answered and review the final. And the question I was going to ask is, did we need to budget for a second staff position? And what I heard is no. So we will do the numbers without that.
All right, that concludes the meeting. Thank you.